Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for a high-stakes journey into a world of doomed emperors, sentient black swords, and ancient gods who treat mortals like particularly useful toys.
We have, a fantastic stack of foundational narratives here,
Mm.
all covering the tumultuous life of Elric, Lord of the Smoking Ruins of Melniboné.
And we're focusing on a period where he is just desperately trying to rewrite his own destiny. We're deep diving into three interconnected arcs: the Stealer of Souls, Kings in Darkness, and the Flamebringers.
And we're also taking a critical look at the parallel quest for the neutral city of Tanelorn. This material is, it's essential for anyone who wants to understand the foundation of modern fantasy.
So our mission for you, the learner, is not just to follow the plot, but to really quickly grasp the core mechanics of this world.
Exactly. The nature of Elric's literal personal doom, the terrifying soul-draining symbiosis he has with his black rune sword, Stormbringer, and crucially, the cosmic power struggles between the forces of law, chaos, and the elusive neutrality that sort of defines their existence.
Absolutely. We are looking at a world where morality is not measured in black and white, but in shades of scarlet and gray. Magic isn't just parlor tricks.
No, it's tangible, life and death power tied to ancient pacts, and every alliance, even with demon gods, is constantly shifting. We'll be tracking exactly how Elric's personal choices accelerate, or in some surprising moments, allow him to momentarily defy that predetermined doom.
Can we have to set the stage right away? Elric is no longer the sovereign of the greatest empire the world has ever known.
Not at all. Melniboné is largely destroyed, a ruin caused in no small part by Elric himself. He is a wandering, perpetually ill albino sorcerer, afflicted by these scarlet eyes and just haunted by dreams of his dead civilization.
And he only survives through the aid of powerful, forbidden chemical compounds and, of course, his monstrous sword, Stormbringer.
That sets the perfect scene for our first arc, the Stealer of Souls.
It really does. We begin in the ultra-wealthy city of Bakshan, where Elric is making a very shocking acquaintance. It's an almost comically low-stakes job that quickly spirals into cosmic violence. Okay, let's unpack this.
So we open in Bakshan, a hub of commerce so rich that it makes other cities in the northeast look, well, poor.
And Elric is meeting with four high-strung merchant princes who, frankly, are kind of interchangeable in their desperation. They're seeking to hire the famed albino sorcerer.
And their grievance is almost absurdly petty given Elric's history, isn't it? They're targeting Nightcorn of Ilmar, a successful merchant who uses the size and efficiency of his caravans to undercut the competition.
He sells things so cheaply he is ruining their business. One of them actually calls him a thief for having low prices.
The irony is just dripping from the page. Elric, the former emperor of the destroyed dreaming city, who has slaughtered armies and summoned demons.
Right. And he's being hired for what is basically a glorified business assassination. But his attitude immediately tells us everything we need to know about his state of mind.
Total detachment. He privately likens the terrified citizens and merchants to sheep and himself to the wolf, who will inevitably rob the fold.
And the payment.
He dismisses their offers of gold or gems as mere chains. He says he will decide the payment later. It just reflects that deep-seated Melnibonian contempt for the material possessions of the young kingdoms.
It's a total culture clash. They measure wealth in gold. He measures it in vengeance and existential survival.
And we should focus on that existential survival because the sources are extremely explicit about the albino's burden here.
He is chronically weak. He needs chemical aids just to remain standing. We see him drinking these great quantities of yellow wine.
A vintage specifically forbidden by law to the general populace because, and this is a quote, too much drove the imbiber mad.
But what's crucial is why he drinks it, right?
Exactly. Elric consumes this poison, hoping that he would, for a night or so, cease to dream. This is not casual drinking. This is chemical self-medication intended to suppress the constant mental torment, the trauma of his lost empire, the deaths he caused, and the psychic burden of his allegiance to chaos.
And then, of course, the core of his power and his curse, Stormbringer. We need to go beyond just calling it a sword. It's described as a symbiotic relationship.
It is a profound life-or-death partnership. The source material makes it clear that without the rune sword, Elric is a cripple, lacking sight and energy. He cannot survive or even function without the sword's energy.
Which is supplied by the souls and blood of others.
Yes. The sword is a sentient evil, not merely an enchanted object. It has an active, predatory will, and Elric is simply the vessel that brings it its prey.
So the job quickly shifts from this, commercial assassination to personal vengeance. The merchants weren't just worried about Nighthorn.
No, they needed protection against Nighthorn sorcerer Theleb K'aarna of Pantang.
And the moment Elric hears that name, his initial ironic detachment just vanishes. He accepts instantly because he had sworn several oaths of vengeance against K'aarna.
This is a key insight, isn't it? Elric may disdain the young kingdoms, but his life is still governed by these ancient Melnibonian codes of honor and grudge. He's motivated by personal, savage retribution, not wealth, not justice.
That thirst for revenge is immediately complicated by the reappearance of one of Elric's former lovers, Queen Yshanna of Charkor. She's described as handsome but black-souled.
And she currently views Theleb K'aarna with just utter contempt, seeing him as a fool and a slave to love.
She provides a critical emotional bridge because she openly admits she only allied herself with K'aarna because she heard Elric was traveling nearby.
It shows this continuing, savage, and deeply unhealthy affection for the man who murdered her brother, Darmit. This toxic, shifting web of attraction, hate, and murder is just so typical of Elric's interactions. Morality is never clean.
So to successfully assault Nighthorn's castle, Elric needs serious help. He can't just rely on Moonglum.
No, he seeks out Divim Tavar, the Dragon Master and Lord of the Dragon Caves. Divim Tavar is a high-ranking Melnibonian noble who was involved in the retaliation after the fall of Imrir.
The fall that Elric himself engineered, so this should be a tense reunion.
It is, and Divim Tavar's willingness to join is a perfect illustration of Melnibonian philosophy. He's openly wary, acknowledging Elric as a betrayer. But he adheres to the principle that they rarely allow emotions to interfere with our general well-being. So he's pragmatically swayed by two factors: the promise of rich plunder and, more powerfully, a shared vengeance against the Theleb K'aarna, who had previously killed a Melnibonian man over Yshanna.
So it's a very cold, calculated alliance, based on mutual gain and shared blood feud, not friendship.
Precisely.
The resulting magical conflict is spectacular and terrifying. The Theleb K'aarna attempts to end the fight quickly by summoning Quelnarn,
A great green toad thing, or hell beast. And this creature isn't concerned with physical damage. It feeds directly on the minds and the souls of adult men and women.
and K'aarna has a direct means of controlling it. A lock of Elric's own white hair, which he uses to direct the Soul Hunter.
Which forces Elric back to his ultimate desperate resource.
He screams out to his patron demon god Ariok, "Aid me now, and I'll dedicate a score of warriors to you."
And the combat itself is incredibly difficult because Quelnarn is physically blind. It only senses souls. Elric is forced to rely on his ancestral witch sight to fight a demon that's blind to the physical world but acutely aware of the spiritual.
It's a costly victory. He manages to strike a specific vulnerable spot on the demon's skull, but the exertion leaves him completely drained.
And this is the moment K'aarna had been waiting for. He quickly conjures the spell, captures the enfeebled Elric, and successfully seizes Stormbringer, locking the sword away.
So Elric, without the sword, is a prisoner. He's completely vulnerable and mocked by Yshanna.
The wolf's teeth have all been drawn, she sneers. He's interrogated by Nighthorn, who actually shows genuine courage.
This brings us to the pivotal moral moment of this entire arc, I think. Nighthorn, the merchant, offers Elric freedom in exchange for his binding word that he will never attempt assassination against him again.
But, and this is key, Nighthorn refuses to return the soul-drinking sword. Elric, desperate for freedom and clinging to this Melnibonian concept of honor, agrees to the bargain, a binding moral oath.
It really highlights Elric's internal contradiction, doesn't it? He despises the world, yet he strives for honor. He's willing to give his word to the man he was hired to kill.
It shows a profound moral potential. But, as always in Elric's life, things are complicated by the toxic web of past relationships.
It is Yshanna who undoes the moral truce. Moonglum appeals to her vanity and her deep-seated hate for Theleb K'aarna.
And she steals the key from the exhausted sorcerer and gives the sword back to Moonglum. The moment that sword is in the room, the entire balance of power just shifts.
Revitalized by Stormbringer's unholy energy, Elric launches the final, overwhelming siege. He uses his ancestral pacts, a testament to the depth of Melnibonian knowledge, to summon honest elementals.
Misha and Grail, the kings of the wind and Lashar giants, these are forces of cosmic law.
To fight Theleb K'aarna's countersummon, the Fire Lord Kakatal, a force of chaos. Air versus fire, law versus chaos, raging above the castle.
The conclusion is just tragic. Theleb K'aarna is found gibbering, destroyed by the forces he foolishly unleashed. Elric kills him with Stormbringer for personal vengeance, but then he faces Nightcorn in the courtyard.
And this is where the critique of Elric's character deepens. Elric intends only to disarm the courageous merchant to honor his word, to honor his moral oath, his recently rediscovered ethical compass.
But the source material is chillingly precise. Stormbringer plunged on its own accord into Nightcorn's heart.
This is the literal manifestation of his doom, isn't it? The sword is not merely a weapon.
It's an active, parasitic agent that forces him into a moral failure precisely when he was attempting to choose good. It proves that the sword's will supersedes his own, and that his freedom is permanently illusory as long as he carries it.
It kills the only man who showed him genuine integrity, and it turns Elric into a perjurer. And what does it say about this world that the moment he commits this fatal moral violation, he is immediately rewarded?
The terrified citizens of Bakshan, fearing the albino sorcerer would attack, forced the surviving merchants to pay a massive, unasked-for ransom of treasure, which Elric accepts without a second thought.
So he got his loot, but at the cost of his honor and the life of his Melnibonian kinsman, Divim Tfar, who died fighting in the courtyard.
The true price of Stormbringer's power is the automatic betrayal of every decent instinct Elric possesses. This is the seed of his next dilemma: how to live without the blade.
A solution that, as we'll see, lies in a place even darker than Bakshan.
Having taken the ransom from the terrified merchants, Elric and Moonglum quickly flee the region, avoiding the beggar mob of Nadsokor, and head toward the dangerous Varkalk River.
And the Forest of Truce.
Why go to a place called the Hellspawn Forest of Truce? Elric is drawn there not for adventure, but for knowledge.
The setting is critical, isn't it? Truce is unnatural. A forest of malignantly erupting blooms with black and shiny trunks. It was created by the ancient doomed folk who released tremendous forces upon the earth.
It is a place of deep, old, localized evil, staining the earth itself. Elric, the student of ancient sorcery, sees Truce as a resource. He's specifically looking for alternatives to the strength granted by Stormbringer.
And yet, amidst this horror, they gain a companion who challenges Elric's self-conception. Zerazenia, a young patrician woman from Karlak.
Yes, she needs escorting, and she is instantly captivated by the terrifying albino emperor. This is where the arc pivots from vengeance to introspection. It's Dune versus the possibility of love.
And Elric, wrestling with the guilt of Nightcorn's death, admits to her that he is a killer and a thief, driven not by destiny but by an awful thing called doom.
But Zerazenia sees through his nihilism. She dismisses his concept of fate, believing he is suffering from guilt madness, a psychological burden he could shed if he chose to.
Critically, the sources note that in her presence he finds unexpected solace and strength, and for the first time since his exile, Simoril, his deceased cousin and lover, is momentarily forgotten.
Zerazenia offers him the chance for a normal life, or at least a life ruled by choice, not coercion.
Their survival in this evil environment becomes directly linked to Elric's search for independence. He gathers healing and summoning herbs from Truce,
one of which is particularly potent. It gives the imbiber temporary invulnerability by reknitting skin and flesh to withstand blades. This is the direct chemical attempt to bypass the need for the sword, a replacement for Stormbringer's life-giving energy.
The detour takes them to the Citadel of Org, a microkingdom ruled by the warped descendants of the doomed folk.
A bleak, ancient place ruled by King Guthrum the Mighty, who is massive, leonine, and utterly decadent. Org is a symbol of decay tied to ancient, corrupted power.
And Elric and Moonglum, protected by the invulnerability potion, pull a massive con. They try to use the aura of the albino sorcerer as a force for good.
Or at least moral superiority. They trick Guthrum into believing they are messengers of the gods and demand tribute.
This is a profound moment of role reversal, isn't it? Elric, the betrayer of law and client of chaos, attempts to become a false prophet of order and consequence. He's trying to use his fearsome reputation as a tool for quick, non-lethal gain.
He's effectively attempting to redeem his image by playing a useful villain.
But King Guthrum is skeptical but deeply fearful of the king from beneath the hill.
And the political tension within the Citadel is volcanic, focused on Guthrum's sullen son, Prince Herd, who orchestrates the internal collapse. Herd goads his blind, emaciated uncle, Virkad, to sing the grim prophecy of the royal line.
And that song lays out the doom of their kingdom. 3 kings in darkness lie, Guthrum of Org and I, under a bleak and sunless sky, the third beneath the hill. When shall the third arise? Only when another dies.
It's a localized ancient prophecy confirming that their power is tied to ancestral murder and human sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that is exactly the trap they spring.
Prince Herd drugs Elric via the traditional guest cup. Elric, suddenly without his Trusian strength, collapses.
He wakes chained between two menhirs on the burial hill, designated as the sacrifice to the leprous white ghouls, the terrifying living dead ancestors of the doomed folk.
And meanwhile, blind Virkad executes his own bitter vengeance. He takes Zarazenia to the central tomb beneath the hill.
He plans to use her blood to complete the resurrection ritual of the Hill King, finally wreaking vengeance on his brother Guthrum by unleashing ancient evil.
So Elric is forced back to the absolute limit. He screams to Arioch a final desperate plea, "Destroy the stones, save your servant."
Which just confirms that even when trying to live independently, he's still tethered to the Lords of Chaos. Lightning strikes, pulverizing the menhirs and releasing him. He's forced to fight the ghouls using the very chain links that bound him.
The climax occurs in the central tomb, which is now vibrating with ancient power. Herd kills Virkad, but the dying minstrel manages to choke Herd.
The two necessary deaths fulfill the grim song, and the Hill King's great coffin begins to tremble. The king emerges fleshless, bones covered by tight, tattered skin, possessing no heart, lungs, or soul.
The ultimate undead monarch, a truly terrifying image of death without rest.
And this creates a unique problem for Stormbringer, which Elric has seized back in the chaos. The sword thrives on the vital essence, the souls of the living.
But the Hill King has no soul to take.
None. Elric frantically hacks at the king's body, cutting at flesh that neither bled nor suffered pain. Stormbringer's power, the very thing that saved him from Qualnarn, is utterly useless here.
So Moonglum, ever the pragmatic hero, saves the day. He suggests Elric lure the king to the central fire and use an oil jar.
Elric manages to push the king into the flames, destroying the monarch and ending the immediate threat. The fire consumes Org's great hall and the monarchy itself, effectively cleansing the earth of an ancient evil.
And Elric takes Guthrun's jewel-encrusted chain of kingship as some reward, a symbolic link to the ancient powers he just defeated.
But following this horrific supernatural victory, the thematic realization of the arc crystallizes. Elric finally makes a key admission to Zarazenia that defines his path forward.
He admits that on the Barrow and in the tomb, he fought and won without relying on Stormbringer's soul-sucking strength.
Because his greatest fear was for Zarazenia's safety. He questions his destiny, wondering if he can rely on the newly discovered Trusian strength herbs, and finally dispense with the blade forever. He shouts, "A new beginning," as they ride toward Karlach.
This is the moment of his greatest hope, the hubristic belief that he has shed his identity as the cursed soul drinker and can choose a path of light.
A path that, as we shall see, fate will not easily permit.
So Elric settles into what he believes is a normal life in Karlach, the city of the Jade Towers. He is content with Zarazenia, studying in the library, relying entirely on his Trusian strength herbs.
And he keeps Stormbringer, the very symbol of his doom locked away in the armory. He is actively living the choice he made in the Forest of Truths.
A peace which is tragically brief, it lasts only 3 months.
And Moonglum shatters that illusion, riding back from the Eastlands with dire news of a new, catastrophic antagonist. Tararn Gashtek, the Flamebringer, Lord of the Mounted Hordes.
Gashtek is a modern tyrant. In just 2 years, he has grown from a local raider to a massive conqueror, leading 500,000 warriors, turning 2,000 miles of the east into a burning waste.
He represents the conventional, terrifying threat of organized human destruction, amplified by sorcery.
And this is where the sources introduce a fascinating magical complication. Gashtek controls Draenei's Bara, a great eastern sorcerer, but through unique means.
Very unique. Bara's soul, for protection, resides in a small black cat named Fearshern. Gashtek seized the cat and bound its legs, eyes, and mouth, effectively enslaving Bara.
Wait, his soul is in a cat?
His soul is in a cat. He is forced to obey for fear the cat would be killed and his soul sent to hell. It highlights the difference between Melnibonian and Eastern magic. Elric's sorcery relies on ancestral pacts with intelligent, high-level beings like Arya.
Whereas Eastern magic, in this portrayal, is based on superstition and localized belief systems. Elric initially dismisses it as little more than superstitions.
But Moonglum offers the critical rebuttal. As long as Draenei Bara believes that the soul cat tether is real, he must obey. The magic works through faith and psychological coercion, not cosmic contracts.
And since the Council of Elders in Karlach refuse to believe the danger and prepare for siege, Elric is forced to abandon his newfound peace.
He reluctantly retrieves Stormbringer. The narrative makes the moment visceral. The Black Blade moans and instantly fills him with an awful ecstasy, instantly confirming his fears that his new beginning was temporary.
He disguises himself in Moonglum as mercenaries and joins Gashtek's horde, seeking a subtle way to defeat the tyrant.
Their temporary allegiance is immediately tested by the brutal fall of Gorshan. Gashtek uses the small town as a practice target.
And Drenij Bara, under duress, demonstrates his power by summoning Dag-Gadon the Destroyer, a powerful elemental.
Dag-Gadon manifests as a flaming face and a scarlet canopy, fulfilling its terrifying command to obliterate the walls, leaving the townspeople naked like crabs without their shells.
The symbolism is chilling. The elementals are forces of nature, reducing civilization to exposed flesh.
The ensuing massacre forces Elric to confront his own identity. He is horrified by the senseless, savage bloodshed, demonstrating that his moral core, nurtured by Zerozenia, is still active.
But he must act with the sword. He is forced to kill a barbarian rapist with Stormbringer simply to protect women and children.
And this act of cold necessity brings back his old power and self-loathing. He is saving the innocent, but through the means of the most damned weapon in existence.
They realize infiltration won't work long-term. Elric and Moonglum steal the soul cat, replacing it with a stuffed rabbit skin, but are captured and thrown into the same wagon as Drenij Bara.
They learn from a captured messenger that Elric's call for help reached his kinsman, Leviam Slorm, and that the Dragon Master is coming, but only with the young ones of the dragons. Time is running out.
Bound in facing failure, Elric resorts to an entirely new magical resource.
He mentally commands Stormbringer, which screamed like a woman as it returned, and then invokes a power far older than Arioch. Mirklar the Cats, Lord of the Cats, based on an ancient kinship predating the fall of Imbrier.
That's a remarkable piece of world-building. He's reaching back to the deepest roots of Melnibonian history, a pre-demon pact, an animalistic connection.
Exactly. Mirklar, dwelling in a world of blue and amber warmth, recognizes Elric as the last descendant of the line who made vows of friendship to the Cat Lord.
And he successfully projects himself to Earth and commands Fireshiren, the Soul Cat, to return the soul by digging its teeth into Drenij Bara's veins.
It is a spectacular act of ancient, protective, non-demon magic, resulting in the sorcerer's liberation.
The immediate price, however, is brutal and swift. Drenij Bara is instantly free and exultant, using his power to turn a shower of barbarian arrows back on the shooters.
But he is immediately killed by an arrow from Turon Gashtek, who seized the opportunity. Freedom equals instant death in this world.
With Drenij Bara gone and the barbarian horde closing in, the cavalry arrives.
Dythim Slorm, son of Davimsfar, the man who died in Bakshan, arrives with 5 young dragons. Turon Gashtek confronts Elric, is killed by Stormbringer, and curses the albino, claiming his own violent way was cleaner than Elric's constant reliance on sorceress betrayal.
And Elric, adopting his ancestral role, trained in the Dragon Master arts, rides the chief dragon, sounding the dragon horn and singing the Song of the Dragon Masters. This is Elric embracing the full weight of his horrific heritage.
Which leads to the ultimate moral sacrifice. In a moment of cold horror and detachment, realizing the necessary evil required to save the young kingdoms, he unleashes the dragon's combustible venom on the massive, fleeing barbarian horde. He is committing mass destruction.
Cleansing the earth of the menace with fire. To save the world, he must become the very thing the barbarians called Gashtek, the Flamebringer.
That moment of exultation is instantly followed by cold horror. He realizes that he used the cursed sword not just for survival, but in any small emergency, proving his reliance is absolute.
In a desperate act of final defiance, Elric flings Stormbringer away, shouting, "It is done at last," believing he has severed the tie to his doom.
But the narrative gives us this cruel paradox. Elric returns to Zerozenia, believing he is finally free, but she sees his sorrow and chooses not to tell him the horrifying truth.
Which is?
That Stormbringer, apparently of its own volition, had already come screaming into Karlag and returned to its spot in the armory. His doom is not just external. It is tethered to his very existence, regardless of his will or his geographic location.
So it didn't work. Okay, so while all that is happening with Elric, the source material pivots to a world-spanning struggle for neutrality, which brings us to the existential crisis of Tanalorn.
Tanalorn is perhaps the most important geographical and philosophical location in these narratives. It is a lonely, long-ago city located on the shifting shores of the Sighing Desert, unheard of in the Young Kingdoms.
And crucially, its allegiance is unique. It's a refuge for wanderers, welcoming the gaunt, the savage, the brutalized. It comes under neither the direct influence of the forces of law nor the lords of chaos.
It is the singular embodiment of neutrality in a universe defined by cosmic warfare.
And that radical neutrality is exactly what makes it a target.
Exactly. The Lords of Chaos resent Tanalorn's existence, seeing it as an affront to the cosmic order that demands all creatures must serve one master or the other. They dispatch Lord Narshan of Chaos to lead a massive, menacing horde of cackling beggars from Nadsokor against the city. This isn't just a military threat, it's an ideological cleansing.
The city is defended by men who have found fragile peace there, including Orakir, the Red Archer, a former warrior priest of chaos who deserted the cause, and Brute of Lashmar.
And they quickly realize their small force cannot defeat Narshan and the vast forces of chaos alone. They need supernatural help, but they cannot seek aid from either major camp. They can't seek help from law, as the sources explicitly state, because the forces of law will only help those explicitly sworn to them.
And Tanalorn's defenders are men who have broken with chaos but have made no new pledge to law.
Which leaves them only one option.
Yeah.
The Grey Lords.
The Grey Lords are beings pledged neither to law nor chaos, intervening only when their whim takes them. Rakir the Red Archer, along with Lamsar the Seer, undertakes the urgent mission through the 5 interdimensional gates.
And this journey is a conceptual map of the forces governing their world. We have to analyze each stop.
Okay, Gate 1 takes them to the Tranquil Society. Here, they encounter villagers engaged in this frenetic, mandatory dance for their own good.
The society has traded freedom for forced happiness. Rakir asks for the next gate, is given an ambiguous answer, and Lamsar invokes sorcery to turn the villagers into smooth, black basalt.
Why turn them to stone?
Lamsar notes, it was for their own good. This is a deeply dark, satirical moment on the tyranny of forced happiness.
Yeah.
The villagers are already spiritually dead, trapped in mandatory joy. Lamsar simply makes that spiritual death physically manifest.
Wow. Okay, so Gate 2 plunges them directly into the realm of chaos.
A howling land of boiling midnight, where reality shifts. They encounter the sea which does not exist, a psychological trap designed to confuse logic. They also encounter Heinhern the Executioner, an immortal giant serving chaos.
And he's defeated only because Lamsar uses the charm of justice on Rakir's arrow.
And this is the crucial point. The charm of justice harms the servant of chaos, because, as the text notes, there is no justice in the world of chaos. Chaos is pure, destructive freedom, entirely divorced from moral consequence or fairness.
Then Gate 3, the realm of the Guardians.
A calm, architecturally beautiful world where bodies are immortal. The Guardians are revealed as the original builders of Tanalorn, a philosophical experiment. They regret they cannot directly help because it is not lawful for them to interfere, but they express love for the city.
And they warn that the next gate, the realm of law, is paradoxically the most dangerous of all.
That sounds completely counterintuitive. Why is the realm of law more dangerous than the realm of chaos?
Because it represents the extreme. Gate 4 is the bleak gray plane of absolute law, where nothing moves, nothing changes, and all possibility is negated. This represents law bereft of justice, a suffocating static order.
Here they encounter a man who is the physical manifestation of pure reason.
And this man is attempting to reason himself and the universe into non-being. He states, "Everything means nothing. That is the only truth." He is intent on reaching the state of absolute nothingness where there is nothing to disturb the order of things.
This is the ultimate danger of law. If law is carried to its logical, absolute extreme, it dictates that all messy, chaotic, living existence, the very thing that makes life interesting and dynamic, is simply a disruption to order.
Pure reason, divorced from empathy or justice, leads inexorably towards silence, stillness, and non-being.
So Rakir must kill this manifestation of suicidal logic to restore the reality of mountains, forests, and rivers, proving that absolute, unyielding law is as destructive to life as absolute chaos.
Which gives the entire structure of the universe its dramatic tension. Life exists in the space between chaos and law, which brings us to Gate 5, the domain of the Grey Lords.
A delicate, pastel-colored world, where Rakir is greeted by Sorana, his former chaos lover. The Grey Lords are masters of extreme, affected humility. They debate with profound self-deprecation, emphasizing their lack of confidence and insight.
So they basically have to flatter them into not helping.
Pretty much, into giving them a vague hint. They're highly powerful, but also intellectually insouciant. They refuse to take responsibility because that would imply confidence in judgment, which runs contrary to their philosophy of detached neutrality.
So Rakir and Lamsar are forced to play this bizarre diplomatic game, flattering the Lord's pride by agreeing that their minds are insignificant and their thoughts incomplete.
And the non-answer is spectacular. The Lord suggests that the boatmen of Zerlarines, who live in a lake above the mountains, will probably be best equipped to aid you, but offer absolutely no guarantee. They are the definition of conditional help.
And as soon as they leave, they're threatened by air elementals and massive owls. The messenger back at Tanalorn confirms the beggar army of chaos is now less than 3 days' march away. The stakes for neutrality are peaking.
We have covered an incredible density of adventure and high philosophy. We've watched Elric move from seeking low-level vengeance in Bakshan to committing mass dragonfire destruction at Karlach.
Finding fleeting love and facing ancient, soulless horrors at Org.
And simultaneously, we've tracked a parallel group of heroes navigating the cosmic forces themselves. Chaos, law, and the destructive nature of both extremes, in a desperate effort to save the only truly neutral city in the known world, Tanalorn.
So, after this comprehensive exploration, what does the learner need to take away from this complex, chaotic, and fascinating chunk of narrative?
Okay, the first key takeaway is the ambiguity and cost of power. Elric's greatest strength, Stormbringer, is unequivocally his greatest curse.
Right. It grants him life and victory, but it automatically makes him a perjurer, like with Nykorn.
Exactly, and it prevents him from finding the lasting peace he craves, as evidenced by its automatic, unrequested return to Karlach. Power and doom are inseparable for him. The sword ensures that his survival comes at the expense of his soul.
Second, we must appreciate the complexity and variety of magic. This world is just defined by magical systems.
Absolutely. We saw the dark, high sorcery of demon pacts with Ariok contrasted with the lawful summoning of elementals. We looked at localized, twisted magic tied to corrupted races like the Trujan herbs and the Soulless Hill King.
And the Eastern superstitious binding of Drunidbara's soul cat. Magic isn't a single force, it's 1,000 systems, often contradictory.
And third, moral alignment is a spectrum of destructive extremes. The universe is defined by the struggle between the destructive freedom of chaos, which requires constant betrayal, and the suffocating rigidity of law, which leads to non-being.
The only true refuge, Tanalorn, operates in the gray space between them.
And it survives only by relying on highly conditional, grudging help from the insouciant Grey Lords, who embody a kind of detached cosmic laziness.
The recurring theme that binds both Elric's narrative and the Tanalorn quest is the necessity of difficult, sometimes morally compromising alliances. Whether between men and elementals, sorcerers of rival nations, or the flirtation with neutrality, survival demands coalition.
Often with forces you despise or fear, or with entities that simply do not care. Elric attempted to escape his fate. He found love, he found an alternate chemical means of strength, and he physically threw the sword away.
But fate, in this mythology, is physically tethered to him. Exactly. Considering Elric's attempts to shed Stormbringer only for it to return to his home city, and the fact that the beggar horde is almost upon Tanalorn, we have to ask, what does it truly take to escape a predetermined fate if the instrument of that doom follows you regardless of your choice? Or does even apparent freedom only lead to a slightly different, perhaps more terrifying kind of battle? Go and find out what awaits Tanalorn and what Elric does next with his unwanted sword.